Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Between Two Stoves. I'm Dave Nelson. I do industry cooking classes here in Sacramento. It's just a series of cooking classes that I used to do everywhere around town that I could find, right? I was like, some guys my age, they get into a band. I just packed up a bunch of stove shit and traveled around town and taught cooking to people that wanted to hear about it, right? And so now during COVID, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just doing it online here, right? Many of you guys have seen my quarantine kitchen happy hour every Monday, where I lay down professional culinary technique. It's my old lectures from culinary school that I've been teaching for the last 15 years around the Sacramento region here. These days, I'm just doing the same thing while I'm cooking dinner. I figure I may as well share the knowledge, right? And so it's been keeping me sane, but I think people are probably going a little insane just watching me all the time. And so I've been reaching out to other food people around town and trying to get a little commentary on what life is like in the new world of COVID. And now, unfortunately, in the new world of Black Lives Matter, upheaval in the streets. And it just breaks my heart to think about how people in our industry were just now beginning to ramp up and figure out how to pivot from, life before COVID and now into COVID. And we just started getting a handle. I think people were coming into restaurants for 2 days in California, was it? And then all of it started. And again, as I've said in previous episodes, hey, I totally get it. I am amazed that this sort of thing doesn't happen every day, every time that we see something like Mr. George Floyd, again and again, and the guy the week before, and the guy the week before, right here in Sacramento, Stephen Clark, right? It just goes on and on and on. And I'm amazed at the restraint we've had up until now, but it affects people in our industry, and it really kind of hurts to see the anger at the system directed in the wrong direction, right? And so I'm going to be talking to Craig Takehara tonight, and I'm hoping we might also talk to his lovely wife, Tokiko, and we're going to talk about Binchoyaki, okay? You guys have heard about this restaurant. Here he is right now. He's showing up right now. Awesome. You guys have heard of Binchoyaki, I'm sure. Let me kind of change up the view here. There we go. You guys have all heard of Binchoyaki in the world before COVID, right? And Chef, if it's okay, just kind of hang back. I'm going to talk for a little bit here. These guys, it was truly a unique dining experience in Sacramento. Being an outsider, I say it all the time. I go to restaurants. I don't go talk to the chef. Oh, I'm another cook. That kind of thing. I just kind of quietly observe what's going on. And I've been to this place several times now, and it's in my neighborhood. I walk by the place all the time. It's always packed. And as I started to say, it's truly a unique dining experience in Sacramento. And I believe when it all started out, it truly was the first one of its kind in this town, right? And so we've seen great success with this guy, but now we see COVID hit, and it's just like a kick to the teeth for everybody in the industry. And I wanted to kind of talk to you because you have been involved with Sacramento Family Meal. In fact, Family Meal Sacramento, I got it backwards, right? And I kind of want to talk to you about that, because here you are, you're struggling to get by, but you're also reaching out to help and working with other restaurants in the community. And these are exactly the kind of stories I wanted to kind of talk about. So first of all, let's just kind of introduce you and talk about what you do, Binchoyaki, Izakaya dining.
Hi, I'm Craig Takehara. I'm chef owner here at Binchoyaki. And, basically we do a different style of dining for Japanese food, and it's called Izakaya. Izakaya is basically like a Japanese pub or tavern. So you're supposed to come, drink, enjoy, your company that you have with you, and have some drinks, and then order food, small plates, little by little, and kind of enjoy everything. And it's mostly just trying to enjoy your guests and have a great time. And, somewhat like a Spanish tapas bar, where you come, have wine, you chit chat, exactly. you enjoy the small bites of food that come with it. And,
you take your time.
Yeah, take your time,
Yeah,
you relax, you hang out, and you know, enjoy all the things that come with it, and the small bites of food and that kind of thing. So that way, you know, you're not stuck with such a large entree or something, but you get a multitude of different things that you get to try and
you
you know,
get to try a wide
experience.
variety. Yeah, yeah, awesome. I love small plates service like that, right? And you know, putting it in terms of tapas, I mean, everybody gets that, right? Just instantly, it's Japanese style tapas. But I will
Yes.
say, just again, watching you from afar, you know, you seem to use a lot of Sacramento produce. So is this really Japanese cuisine, or is this Sacramento cuisine? You know, a Japanese guy doing Sacramento cuisine, you know, because that's always been my contention. I've been cooking in this town a long time, and it's like we got flooded with people from all over the world during the gold rush, and Sacramento has a definite cuisine because of that, right? It's this international cuisine using what we got here. Take it.
Absolutely. That, you know, I mean, ultimately we are making Japanese food, and I try to make it as fairly, at least for the most part, for most of the core menu, is a bit of traditional style things that we want to develop those traditional flavors as well, and have that as kind of our core. But we are given this abundance of wonderful produce, wonderful you know, farms that are nearby, and so
Isn't it
we,
awesome? It's just awesome.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
for us to stick with such a traditional thing and not utilize that type of abundance of things that we just have that are so close to us, it doesn't make sense to me. I
Yeah.
also get bored with things that I do, and so of course I want to try to you know, branch out, make new things. What's new in the market? What's happening? What can we do? How can we apply this to this and that? You know, I didn't always do Japanese food, so there are a multitude of other things that you know, I know how to cook and have cooked for a long time, and that way I am able to kind of mix some of those ingredients and those styles of cooking into the Japanese food as well.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your background, man? You're a Sacramento guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I originally grew up here in Sacramento.
Uh-huh.
Went to, you know, obviously elementary, middle school, high school here. Started to get to college, and then ended up moving away. I ended up in Santa Barbara for a couple of years, and
Love
it was
that
just,
town.
yeah, I was just doing the you know, city college thing for a little while. Kind of wasn't really my deal. My dad knew that I wasn't always so interested in the book work and that kind of thing, but
Oh my gosh,
was,
this sounds, here it is again, folks. This is the same old story. You're just like me, dude.
you know, and so I started cooking for myself, actually, because I was out on my own for the first time,
And
and
hungry, starting to
and
get hungry, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and me being at home, you know, new town, new place, not a whole lot of friends. So what do? You kind of try to experience and make new friends and find out things that you enjoy and what you would like to do and that kind of thing. I ended up watching the Food Network a lot and trying
Oh,
to learn some of the terminology and how they're doing things and what they're doing. And my father worked up here, but his corporate office was down in Pasadena, actually. And he said that
okay.
he had passed by this culinary school when he was down in Los Angeles and thought it might be a good idea for me to go. So he actually booked an appointment for me to meet with them there, and then told me about it afterwards.
So
And
you didn't really, you weren't taking this serious yet at all. You were just like going into it. Wow. Wow.
yeah, not at
Awesome.
all. And so,
Okay.
you know, I went down for the interview, talked to them a little bit, and I was like, you know, all right, well, I think this is something that I might be able to do. So I jumped in, I started my classes or whatnot, and then still was not really trying, not super interested in it, and got into my first actual like practical cooking class and was cooking. Didn't actually try very hard still at that, ended up being in the top of my class. And so I said, well, what the hell? What if I tried?
Cooking,
What would I?
cooking ain't hard though, is it?
It's
I mean,
not hard.
chefing is hard, but the cooking part, it ain't rocket science, right? I always say that. You know?
It's not
Yeah.
rocket science. And so,
Yeah.
you know,
Anyway,
so
sorry.
that was one of those things. And I was like, well, shit, what if I try actually and try to do something and learn? And so, so then
You
I
should put
did.
that on a t-shirt, dude. What if I try? What would happen?
So,
Sorry.
so kind of from that point on, I was like, I just told myself, I said, well, let's try it. Maybe this is something that could actually work out. And I ended up trying at it, and I was doing really well. I did stay at the top of my class for pretty much most of the school, which ended up being really, really good for me. I learned a lot. I moved forward. Some things you take in stride. You basically, whatever you put in, you get out of it. And so
yeah, and you got your basics, right? You got a basic structure to work with. I don't know if you know, but I taught for Cordon Bleu for about 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, the time when I went there, they had just been accredited by Le Cordon Bleu, so I got a Le Cordon Bleu degree. I actually got an Associate of Science while I was there too. So that worked out great. So I did get a little bit of a further education thing going on, and basically just started working in restaurants while I was down there.
Here it is. So you started grinding it out in different places and actually learning stuff now, right?
Yeah, actually. And, I had taken a month off of school after I finished, but then I still had an externship I had to finish. Yeah. So after I took the month back off and I came back, I was like, the school called me and said, hey, so you don't have any externship hours right now. If you would like to walk with your school or the rest of your class, you got to get going. And I was like,
it's the old story. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how am I going to make these hours up? So one of my friends with the culinary school had gotten a job down in Costa Mesa, which is Orange County area.
Yeah.
And it was working for a restaurant called Pinot Provence, which is part of the Patina group for Joaquin Spital. And so it was a really nice restaurant, except that they were in a Westin hotel. So now they're 365 days a year, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, fine dining. So
another thing, brother, I know that hotel thing is good for you, though, isn't it?
It is.
You do that, you can do anything, right?
Yeah, so it is good. It's a good learning experience. At the time, I pretty much hated it at the time, but as I look back, I actually learned so much in that locale, or where I was in that kitchen, and that was where I learned to hustle, because I was working the salad station and the cold appetizers, and then I was doing dessert, and I'm like, yeah, it was exactly. It was running from one side of the kitchen to the other side of the kitchen, and I was like, hey chef, I really want to learn hot apps and saute, maybe move over to the grill and the fish station. He's like, yeah, cool, go for it, it's all good.
I always told my students, you get out of culinary school, work a hotel, because you work everything. Yeah.
And so then he tells me, go ahead, you're welcome to do that after you're done with your stations. And I said, excuse me? How am I supposed to do that? He's like, not my problem, figure it out.
Yeah.
So, I ended up trying to figure that out, because obviously I wanted to move up. So then now I have to do my 2 stations, then help a 3rd station. And then once I learned that station, there was my 2 stations, plus help the 3rd station, plus help a 4th station. And then
it's like medical school, it's like they got to throw you into the weeds, so you can become a doctor at the end, and I think it's the same thing. You've just got to experience that. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're successful right now, brother, because, you had that, what do they call the birth by fire or whatever, that baptism by fire. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's one of those sink or swim things. And, lose it or learn it or lose it. Either way, you're going to have to kind of do it one by one. So, I was working there. Plus I was still doing part of my externship for hours to work at the culinary school. The funny thing is, my culinary school teacher in Pasadena actually happens to be Chef Kyle Connaughton, who owns Single Thread Farms.
Oh,
so,
okay.
The funny thing is that he's now one of the better chefs in the country. And at the time, I had no idea. He was interested in Japanese food. I was interested in Japanese food. So he and I got along really well.
So still in touch?
We talk once in a while through Instagram and that kind of thing.
Yeah, why not?
I ended up doing, that's actually where I met my wife, with that culinary school, and Chef Connaughton.
Oh, we got to hear about your wife. She's famous.
Yes, she is.
Keep talking, brother. I got to get a little more wine.
Absolutely. But, that's where I ended up meeting her as well. And her and I kind of, started dating during that time. And she was working in the culinary industry as well. She had worked at some big hotels as well, some small restaurants. As we progressed forward in our careers in restaurants, she had come work at a couple of restaurants with me. I went to go work at a couple of restaurants with her.
It's funny in this business. It's like, who else are you going to meet?
Yeah.
Other restaurant people, right?
Yeah, lots of other restaurant people. So, and I ended up meeting a lot of great people. But, ultimately, I worked in a lot of French restaurants at the beginning of my career. So I probably worked in 5 or 6 French restaurants, and then worked in another really big hotel down in Balboa Bay in Newport Beach.
Swank. So, I know that area very well, actually.
Yeah,
It's
very
nice.
First time I ended up having to do yacht service. That was very weird.
Yeah, those are real yachts down there too. That's awesome.
Yes, they are.
So I don't know how long you have, brother. We should let's talk about nowadays. What's Binchoyaki? Tell us a little bit more. I keep saying the name wrong, but tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now.
Well, for now, it's obviously been a little difficult with the whole COVID situation and having to shut down the dining room. Us having such a small dining room in the first place is it's a little bit challenging anyway. And going from doing very little takeout to doing 100% takeout, it's a very different ballgame for us.
That's what I was curious about. I mean, does this style of dining fit into the takeout model, and what kind of evolution is occurring right now to figure this out?
Well,
these are the stories I want to bring to the people.
Yeah. Well, for me, I don't prefer to do that. I mean, having a skewer that we cook straight hot off the grill, and it goes straight onto a plate and onto your table, and you take a bite out of it within minutes, is very different than it being half an hour, 45 minutes later when you get to eat that. And so the texture, the flavor, the smell, everything, a lot of it is the smell of the barbecue while we're cooking, smelling that charcoal with the meats that are being cooked on it. It's kind of part of the ambiance of the food.
You're talking about, the term you're talking about is the dining experience, man. It's all part of it, right? The sights, the smells, the fire, all of it, right? And it's just like some things must translate better than others, I'm sure.
Yes,
but yeah, it's just how do you and also the thing about guys like you, and I see Scott over at Origami, right? I see places like that where it's the open kitchen and a chef's right there. They own the place. It's like a chef-owned place, which is like, hey, guys, chefs don't own restaurants. It's very rare out there, right?
Yeah.
And you see a place like that, and I see guys like you, and it's like your kitchen is set up to where it's like your choo-choo train set, and you're back there playing, and you're making these little small plates, and they're really cool. And it's like you spend time. Hey, let's try this. Oh, this will be funky, this or that, and it's really hard to translate that into.
It is very hard, and
it's got
part of what we do here is we have our normal menu, and we also have a specials menu that I usually like to put out. Well, obviously that whole specials menu is gone, because how can I create and expect to hopefully sell that kind of thing? Otherwise, I just get left with all the product, and it doesn't make sense. So now we've had to revert back down to a limited menu from our core menu. Yeah, just to kind of streamline the products that we can. And, what can we make with the same products that we're doing that kind of cross over, because we want to be able to utilize that product without having any waste and keeping it fresh and that kind of thing. So it's and
that utilizing one product for several different things, as many different things as you can, and just streamlining that order guide and everything. See, these are the things that my students need to hear, right? When I'm going back to school and everything. These are the conversations that they need to hear, is like, what's the future going to look like,
Absolutely. And those are things that need to be thought about. You need to think about that. Like, I can only use this part of the fish for the sashimi. Well, what about the trim or whatever? We don't want to lose that weight. So, some of the trim pieces I can use for spicy tuna. I can use for a poke tostadas, which we do here too. So those are, I can use them,
spicy meatballs or something, whatever.
Exactly. That kind of thing. So, same thing with the chicken and the trim from the chicken. What do? That we grind it up. We make a chicken meatball kind of thing, or we use it and the bones and all that for making stock. So that way it's all 100% utilized. It also turns everything. We never usually keep anything longer than 2 or 3 days here in the restaurant. Everything is moved. because we don't.
That's awesome, Guy. A 3-day turnaround on product. That's good stuff.
I mean,
man.
And that's because we also don't have a whole lot of storage space. The whole point was to basically prep for today, hopefully sell everything by tomorrow, and then we're back to the new thing again. We're just starting over every other day. We're starting over and making new prep and getting everything ready. So it's very rare that things are sitting around here. I don't have a big walk-in refrigerator for things to just sit around in. And so, that's also a difficult thing to deal with during a time like this where we have slowed down, and just doing the takeout thing has been difficult.
You hear that, Sacramento? The freshest food in town right here.
but now this translating over to being included with the family meals, and working with Mulvaney's and Cannon and Alora and Woodlake Tavern, Nick's Taco, Camden Spit and Larder, Savory Cafe, all of these places where we've kind of come together.
The biggest names in Sacramento hospitality right there. And all coming together. Family Meal Sacramento, at Family Meal Sacramento is the Instagram.
It's been a very big thing for us, which is great. It has turned out to be great for everybody. It's great for the community. It's great for us as a restaurant because we're receiving, funds to help pay the staff, to pay rent, insurance, that kind of thing. So we're working with the paratransit and Meals on Wheels through the ACC to do a lot of those things. And so being able to include
so many organizations coming together on this thing. I didn't realize, paratransit was involved with that. That's
yeah. And
which you have to think of every stage, right?
Yeah. So those are the people that are doing the logistics. They're moving the product to the places that they need to go. The mayor's office has been involved with this hugely, and being able to do that, we've been getting great donations from a lot of vendors to help us with this because it takes a lot to be able to do that. But
they're stretching the dollars by giving you extra product to do this.
Absolutely. Awesome. So that's really, really been a big help. They've really stepped up to help us.
And can I clarify, this money is coming from the government, going to the restaurant to produce meals for seniors or other at-risk populations that could use a meal now and then.
Absolutely.
Right?
So we've been doing 3 different programs. So one of them is SHRA, which we just finished up. That money was coming from the city because that's a city program. We were helping serve Mercy Housing. That was given almost 100% by donation, which is great. So that's the community itself.
So like cash donations coming in?
Cash donations through a spot fund that Clay Nutting and Brad Chetty from Cannon have really kind of put things together. They've raised so much money and been able to allocate this money for us to be able to do that for the housing centers there.
So I imagine listeners could go to at Family Meal Sacramento and donate a bunch of money right now if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
They could just a dump truck full of money on their property right there, right? If they wanted to, right?
And we've actually had some people doing that, which has been awesome. The third program that we're doing is they call them the FEMA boxes or BLD boxes, which is helping to serve the seniors. So that is federal money with county money and federal money, state money, and city money all together to help provide kind of a cash flow for restaurants. There has been a lot of restaurants that have been closed. And so with these boxes, it's starting to help provide the restaurants with money to restart or to keep things going in our case.
And let's not forget, all of that money going into those restaurants is getting filtered down into the community, whether it's to buy supplies, whether it's to take care of those employees that are in those restaurants that are now out of a job practically or getting very few hours in this job. And people don't think about those restaurant workers. That is a substantial chunk of our economy. What is it? 20 million restaurant workers in this country, or hospitality workers in this country, right?
Yeah.
That, we bail out big companies all the time. And this is just just a bunch of little companies, but it's just as big, right? And so,
absolutely.
Wow. I just had to go on a little rant there. I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it's huge. And not only that, but now it's reaching the farms and the farmers, the ones that have supported us and been here, giving us this plethora of great product. Now it's feeding money back to them because we're trying to buy from them to keep them open. Awesome. This is going also for the logistics. You know, we have the paratransit and I believe it's UCP that are coming in, and United Cerebral Palsy, their trucks are coming in and they're helping. So it's providing hours for them to do the logistics. It's providing money for us, for the farmers, for their staffs, our staffs, and it's providing food for seniors. So this is such a full
truly
circle thing.
Truly from the farm to the suppliers, because they're in on it, and that's part of the whole economy. Look at Produce Express; they're very much involved in all of this. I think, right?
Absolutely.
They're partners, right?
Yes, very much so. We couldn't have done it without them for sure. And
filters into the restaurants, into the community, into the people that need it, the paratransit in the middle and all of that. Oh my gosh, it's just so many people involved, so much good going on. And these are the stories that give me heart through these difficult times, I got to say, you know.
Yeah, very much so. And a lot of that's helped push us through. So without that, you know, we may not be open right now. So that's
and it's still going on, right? This family meal is still going strong, even among all the strife and everything, we have to say, right?
Absolutely. And it seems like it has now filtered into other cities as well, which is for us to be some of the first restaurants to kind of pilot this whole kind of thing, and to see it spread to the Bay Area, to I think I've even seen it down as far as Los Angeles. And
because I saw Roseville today. I didn't realize Bay Area and LA, but yeah, I saw Roseville.
Yeah, which is great. So for that to be being extended, and for this moving forward to help all restaurants basically, is a great, awesome thing, right? Because this is something that benefits everybody. It benefits the people who need to stay out of the grocery stores so that they can stay away from trying to, you know, or staying away from this COVID, right? The less they're in the grocery stores, the better off they are. Helps the restaurants, helps everybody else. So fantastic idea to you know, Canon and Mulvaney for kind of getting this off the road.
Hey, I think everybody was just chomping at the bit, weren't you? You know, it's just like, what can we do, you know, to kind of help out? Because we are in the hospitality business, right? And so we're always looking for ways to serve. And so I saw it. That's why I'm doing this, is because there are so many people like yourself, sir, and others, right, that are stepping up and working with the community. We just laid it all out. Gosh, we're just like hammering into the ground right now. But we should hammer one more thing into the ground, people. Bust out some cash for these guys, right? Lay down some money, because it's not just that government money. It's also the people money. And if this ain't a people's movement, 20 million workers, hey, I don't know what it is. If it sounds like one of the better bailout ideas that I've heard. And, you know, giving it to the small guys, that money definitely filters throughout the economy. It's not going into some Swiss bank account in the Cayman Islands.
I wish we all had one of those.
Oh, you better believe it.
We'd all be in a better spot by then.
Let me see. Gosh, I didn't want to keep you too long. I mean, you got service tonight, right?
Yeah.
Or are you closing early, or what are your hours like these days? We should talk about that.
Well, you know, we're still doing, you know, originally our hours were 11 to 2 for lunch, then we take a 2-hour break, and then we would go 4 to 10, and then till midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. But then
you're a madman, dude, and you were there the whole time, huh?
Yeah, but you know, with the COVID thing going on, it didn't make sense for us to be open that late. That just, you know, with the takeout, it just doesn't necessarily make sense. So we went,
once it got late, nobody's out there.
Yeah. So we just went from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. straight, no breaks in between, but close it earlier. It allows us to help make the food for the family boxes, as well as it does allow us to do prep and work for the restaurant as well, that kind of thing. But now, since we have this curfew that's been imposed, obviously starting yesterday, I believe, we basically figured that we weren't going to get very many orders after about 7 p.m. So we just did our best to hustle and try to get cleaned up and get out of here. sure enough, we didn't really have very many orders because nobody wants to come down and try to be around during the curfew time.
No, once the, yeah.
You know, even
right
with
there.
even with my staff, we've had to create notes for them to be able to take with them on their trip home in case they happen to get pulled over, saying that, you know, we do have business hours until 8 p.m. and that they're traveling.
You have like a grill badge, you know, hey, we're grill police, you know.
Yeah. So,
we had to grill till 7, so.
But just to allow them to kind of basically be separated from people who may be protesting or whatnot,
Right.
but that they were actually specifically working and just on their way home at the time. So we're on 10th Street. So 10th Street is a huge thoroughway to the Capitol. So
absolutely.
In the past 4 or 5 days, we have had hundreds of CHP flying down this street. Today, we've had basically, we had about 10 Humvees come down as the curfew and the kind of the martial
they're not
law
police.
thing.
Those aren't police Humvees either. Those are National Guard ones and everything.
Those are National Guard.
I think I mentioned I'm down in your neighborhood too. I'm walking past there all the time. I'm over by the cemetery. And,
okay.
So, yeah. So, do you guys live in the neighborhood, or are you guys you're in Placerville, are you, or something?
No. We actually live over in Pocket area. So.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
So it's still a little bit of a drive, but it tends to be a little quieter over there. But it's kind of actually the neighborhood where I grew up, so I feel comfortable over there. And I've been there for a long time. I've got kids too, and it's a nice quiet place.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. I have a almost a 2-year-old and a almost 6-year-old. So
and
1 and 5.
A restaurant and how old is your restaurant?
Restaurant is about we just passed 4 years.
Okay, so 3 kids then. 3 kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't tell the kids I said that.
So
let me throw one last question at you, and then I'll let you go,
sure.
brother. Who else out there is like doing cool stuff, like whether it's good people stuff or whether it's just like sharp good ideas for like the future and service out there. Who's got some good restaurant ideas?
There's so many people out there that are doing really great things right now. Biggest thing I've had with Sacramento is the support from everybody here and how I'm trying to help support them as well. I believe in so many restaurants trying to do all of these good things. Obviously, Philly Crew is doing great things. The whole Sellens group is doing well. We have Grange and Camden and Alora and Cannon and Mulvaney's.
I'll throw out feed the front lines 916. It's all the that was the Crew guys and Limelight and those guys over there.
Yeah, all of these guys
awesome.
are doing a great job. We have Localis. It's not too far away from here. They're doing great things too. So
guys, support Localis. I love those guys. We got to support Localis.
These guys are, all of these people are trying to do great things and just trying to do great food for Sacramento. And there's nothing really better than that, which is really awesome. Coming from Los Angeles and working most of my career down there, it's fairly cutthroat down there. And being here in Sacramento, the community is very supportive, and everyone has been very supportive of us, especially we're still kind of the new kids on the block kind of thing because we're a younger restaurant.
But you blew their minds, man. You blew their minds. Yeah.
We're just, our thing is to just try to make good food and hopefully people come back. And so, it's fairly simple. And, but we also couldn't have gotten this far, I don't believe, without the support of the community and everybody. And the fact that everyone has done that and been just so awesome from the get-go has really been really a godsend, and we appreciate everyone here in Sacramento and all the restaurateurs and everybody that's been working so hard in this community to help make Sacramento a better place. So
awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds corny, but a lot of love in this town. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Craig Takehara from Binchoyaki restaurant, and we were Between Two Stoves today. Don't forget to get over to my YouTube channel. I got tons and tons of cooking videos and more interviews of Sacramento people. And I'm just kind of a knucklehead out here. I'm just a cook, guys, but I'm getting it done. And I thought we had a great conversation there. And I think this is the kind of stuff I would be proud to show to my students, whether they're at the corrections facility or anywhere else. So, thank you so much for that, man. And appreciate it. And I'll come holler at you one of these days, man. And
be great.
Okay.
Be great to see you. Thanks very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the party as always in the kitchen. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Whoop, whoop.